glass and steel and exposed, aluminum, or, it's not like Stanford Stadium. So it won't. Right?
That's mean.
I'm sorry.
That's mean.
Okay, and so the planning commission's concerns are that they want to minimize the visual, so, we have a,
We all got these handouts, but it looks like I'm gonna carry project. That's what it looks like. There you go. Well, so there we are.
So maybe the architect can kind of shed a little bit of information and more light on what the overall design is, and the, pretty pictures on paper sometimes, don't always come out the way.
And I'm Pearl Mature, I work at Square 3 Design Studios.
Okay.
And yes, our goal in the design was to be sensitive to the other structures of the park and design it in some kind of old-fashioned style.
So the beige wooding in the background, is that natural wood or is that painted
No,
wood?
it's proposed to be painted. I mean, the color rendition is not precise. I mean, we were planning it to, come back at the construction document stage and have the color and materials board. And we did have some discussions with the planning commission in which we discussed painting it the color of other buildings in the park. And as to painting it the darkest color of the other buildings in the park, and we're completely open to that.
Right, and the seats are they aluminum or?
Yeah, they're proposed to be aluminum bleachers in kind of the interest of kind of economy and maintenance. I mean, they're very kind of
Okay.
long-lasting.
All right. And can you explain the 24-inch wide seat as a standard?
So the reason this 200 number comes up is that by building code, every 18 inches is deemed to be one seat, which is kind of maybe one of these seats is 18 inches, which is fine for your actual seating, but when you go to a seating like this, people don't necessarily want to be packed in right next to one another. And so in fact, we were targeting the kind of maximum comfortable occupancy being in the 60 to 100 person range. It's just that we wanted to, people come, they've got bags with their sippy cups and, young kids, and we wanted to just make it be a little bit more, generous and give people a little bit more room. So yes, you've got 24-inch seats, but you've got 24 inches between each of you too, and that gives you a little more elbow room. And the goal is never to have actually 200 people come to a specific game.
24 inches is a big seat, actually.
Well, I think what she's saying is that it was not ever intended as a one-person seat. It's, physically a seat, but for all the ancillary equipment, like a cooler or a diaper bag or something like that.
Because they're bench seating, right? So you have a...
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
not...
given the fact that we'll probably never get 100 people there, there'll be plenty of empty seats for people to put coolers on. So as far as I'm concerned, we should agree on 24 inches. There's no reason to look. You go to Menlo Park, Littledale Park, they're nowhere close to 36 inches.
Well, it's not individual seats, it's just a long bench.
Well, let's work on the basis of 24 inches and up to 100 people.
Weissner wants to make a...
I'm going to speak up for the bigger people that
Oh.
tend to be,
Would you like to stand up?
thank you. 24 inches is just about going to cover it for barely my tail end. And when I go to the game or if kids are with me, I've got stuff. And in comfort level, I just got out of an airplane, and Billy, you and I both travel. Sometimes I'm in the exit row just to get a few more feet for my feet, let alone I'm right on top of somebody. If I want to enjoy a game, I would prefer to have a little bit more space. So I'm sorry, Jim, I'm on the other spectrum.
Okay. All right, well, let's, so the other comment that Planning Commission made is that all the roof to be permanent as proposed, with a modified design to minimize the visual impact. Did Planning Commission make a suggestion about what their modified would be, and do you understand what that means?
They
Or
didn't communicate a specific request to us. I mean, our belief is that design does minimize the visual impact. It's a very simple kind of hip roof structure.
a composition
Yeah.
shingled roof?
Well, the actual structure of the roof, I mean, it comes down to the hip, so you've got kind of eaves all around. It's not something that's like, you know, like a stadium where you've got it all open and angling off. I mean, it brings down the eaves in a way that's kind of consistent with other structures in the park.
Can we have, Herm, would you like to comment on that? Like,
Looks like
Well, I think the idea was to reduce the size of the stadium. And we talked about, 60 to 100 and 2-foot seating, giving you 2 feet. Trying to determine the length of bench you would have, for instance, with 100 people, you'd have 200 feet of bench. And the proposal has a great deal more than that. In regard to the roof itself, it's I guess it's a hip, isn't it? Or-
Right.
Yeah,
It's a hip
roof.
and it's a shed and.
Yeah, type of roof, and probably the, reducing the visual effect of the roof would come by reducing what's underneath, the seating. If you get less seating, you don't have to go up as high. However, you could, and I'm not sure how this would fit with, the baseball picture that a lot of people have of what a stadium should be. You could reduce the pitch of the roof, and I'm not sure what pitch you used on that 6
I
and
believe it's a
12.
4 and 12 right now. It's not,
Pardon?
I believe it's a 4 and 12. It's not a steep pitch roof.
No.
Well, if it's 4 and 12, it's probably as good as you're gonna
Yeah.
do. I don't know. It's hard to tell on the pictures because
Sure,
obviously
sure.
it isn't specified.
yeah.
But basically, I think we were trying to minimize as much as possible the effect of the improvements on the rest of the park. And so one way of doing that is obviously to reduce the size, and which would reduce the seating. The roof itself would come down, as you have less rows of seating, and that would, in effect, reduce it if you do keep the 4 and 12. That's about as good as you can hope, rather than a higher pitch.
So going to the middle column, staff's evaluation is that a permanent seating structure as proposed by the Little League is consistent with the ballot measure because of what was indicated in the ballot measure and the arguments for, arguments against, the rebuttals and things like that. So that's staff's interpretation. And I have to say that there are many times that staff, as the professionals, do not agree, and they make their recommendations that are contrary to what sitting committee members and commissioners may say. And this is not new in our town, and I'm sorry, Mr. Slade, but it is not a new approach, because what staff looks at things in a pretty much black and white way, according to law or restrictions or rules, and commissioners and committee members, they look at it with their own views, and then they make recommendations, and then it comes to council for the final say. So, this is not a new experience that we're having here for staff to not agree with planning, with, a commissioner's recommendation. So, just to put that out there. So, the architect has kind of given us the feedback from the Menlo Atherton for this, and the cupola and decorative ladders are designed to complement the historic existing buildings in the park. Okay, so what we need to do is to affirm the seating structure as proposed, and that it is consistent with the ballot measure, or discuss other things. Now, I have never seen Atherton get involved in architectural design as in much detail as we are with this particular structure. One of the things, and we've got professional builders here that love to build in Atherton because there is no architectural review board. And what I think the Planning Commission has done here is to do an architectural review. of this facility, of this structure in lots of ways, instead of just dealing with the land use component of it. So that's just my personal opinion, and that's how I'm perceiving it. So are there other council, if we just dealt with this item number 1, can we talk amongst ourselves about how we want to proceed?
Well, since you took some time to go over your view on that, my view is this, first off, I think that we have an obligation to build a stadium or covered seating area, and I think it's a great opportunity for the town, and clearly all the town wants it. The ballot measure is, and when we went through it, you know, Bill even said in the meeting, Mr. Connors, our city attorney, said that didn't preclude the planning commission. Now, that said, you know, of course, the planning commission does make recommendations, and I think that the staff has an obligation to try and understand what the planning commission was saying, and then work with the residents and or whoever to try and come up with some sort of compromise that meets it. In my conversations with our city manager, implied that perhaps maybe they didn't really do that or felt empowered to do that. Now, maybe I misunderstood that. But with regards to the comment at hand, I don't like sitting next to people in an 18-inch seat on an airplane. Although the standard for stadium seating, if you go out on the website, is 18 inches, but I don't condone that. I do think that the 24 inch is probably adequate. I wouldn't want to go below 24 inches, but at the same time, I think that the picture that is used here, actually, you know, I've coached a Little League, I've had kids in Little League, I've gone to games and just watched them as I'm in the park, and, you know, if you see the picture that's here, that's pretty much what it's like at a Little League game. All right, so there's about 35 to 60 people at the game, and there's space. Now, at our park, the people are on lawn chairs and they're sort of sitting on the grass, and it's really, you know, inconvenient. And with all due respect, you know, to yourself, I think we need something that's somewhat permanent, you know, so that people do have a place to sit and be out of the weather. And I think all those things are necessary. However, you know, I don't think we need to make it larger than it needs to be, because it'll be, you know, a lot of it will be empty. So, you know, I'm in favor of, you know, of a 24 inch, no less than 24 inch, and I think the dugouts need to be covered, period, the end. You know, there's not a question with me on that. But so I'm on the 24 inch bandwagon. I'd like to give some, you know, and I would think that for some reason, whether we agree as a council that 24 inches is probably doable based on the number of people that will come, etc., or even if we don't agree, you know, I would like to see, and I spoke to the city manager, that the staff would work with you know, a Little League to see if there's any sort of compromise that we can do to try and bring the parties together, because we can't say no. This has been approved, and so we need to endeavor as a team, really, to try and make all this happen, but preserve the integrity of the park too. So my view is 24 inches, but my view on the total process is that we need to find a way to come together. So thank you.
So, Vice Mayor, do you have a comment on that?
You probably already got a little bit of my comment, but I agree, there's gotta be some room in between, but the older I get, the 36 inches seems just more accurate, and then every time, and I am one of the people that is bringing everything and their brother to the game, and I usually have kids jumping all over me, and so people usually spread out to stay away from my troop. So that being said, I think we can come up with some ground. I'm on the 36-inch side, but you know, I do think that understanding that when we go to the game, it's about comfort and, you know, the stuff that we bring and safety, so that's it for me.
Do you want, sure.
Well, my view is very simple. The length of the structure is measured by 24 inches to 60 to 100 people. Now, I don't care what the seat size is, as long as the length of the structure remains the same. So in other words, if you calculate the length of the structure based on 60 to 100 people using 24 inches, that to me is what I would approve. And what you do with the seating, once you've decided on the length of the structure, frankly, I think that's up to Little League to do anything they like for it. They can make some seats bigger, some seats smaller, they can make benches, they can make anything else. But to me, the planning commission recommendation is very simple. They are recommending 24 inches with 60 to 100 people so that the impact, the visual impact of this stadium is reduced. Now, what the Little League can do, once they've decided on that size, is fine as far as I'm concerned. And there's nothing in the ballot measure that talks about this, nothing.
So, I have a question to the architect. The overall length and of the
Stadium.
to me, it doesn't look too big on this, if you look at it on this plan.
This layout.
It looks like it hugs the,
You can't really see it from here.
you can't see it?
I want some larger boards, like,
Probably because I'm holding it down, I don't know.
I don't know, members of the
Yeah.
audience want to look
It
at
just,
it.
it looks like it hugs the home plate
Yeah.
pretty tightly.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
No, but I'm in this way.
yeah, it's pretty tight to the backstop. I mean, I guess if we were,
So it's 8 feet from the backstop.
the backstop is in the existing location.
Yeah.
And we're not moving the infield, proposing to move the infield at all.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of nestling in there between that and the tennis courts.
Mhm.
So it's, I know, it's not, it's about the size of the structure that somebody could build as an accessory structure in their backyard.
Mhm.
You know, the limit on those structures is 15 feet.
And the other thing that it does provide is the restrooms on the back side and storage, which you never have enough of. And, you know, there's always need for storage. And so I don't know, I'm not, I don't see that it's as massive as everyone else seems to think. I think that any change is always met with, I should say unfounded, but, you know, kind of irrational fear that it's gonna be bigger than it is, so.
Madam Mayor,
That's a lawnmower in there?
Madam Mayor,
The storage- Yes, sir,
If-
yeah.
our contractors
Mhm,
maintain the field.
mhm,
We don't need storage for a tractor. We don't need storage for a lot of the other things.
mhm.
And in my mind, the only way to keep that field in good shape is for our contractors to maintain it and have Little League pay for it.
But that's another issue.
Yeah, that's another issue, and
That's
I
another issue, but
I
agree.
actually
But
did.
you're talking about
yeah.
storage.
But it applies, it does apply to this. There is
Mhm.
storage today. You all use that little Allen shed, right? You use that Allen
Mhm.
shed and it's shared with tennis, is that not correct?
Tennis, yes.
Yeah, and so,
Yeah.
so the, half of that, and I don't know how they've divided it, but I know that you store the lime or whatever, the chalk that you put in the field and the rakes and stuff like that, so. I did have I stepped off that, half of that shed, which, you know, you may use more, but the half of the shed was 8 by 10. So that's what you're using today. You probably need more, and maybe the guys are gonna keep the bats and balls there and things like that. So I think that you need more space than what you have today, but, you know, if we get to the construction, I'm not sure that really, you know, building a larger structure so that you can have your own tractor there is really pertinent. We do need the restrooms. The restrooms were listed there. They need to be included. They need to be open year-round because we said that would be available to all users. And so, you know, So there has to be some storage in the back, it's not just the seating area. So I agree with, others on the council that says that we need to have some space in the back, but I don't know that we need as much space, but we don't want to be short-sighted.
You can never have enough storage.
This isn't a house, it's a covered seated
You
area.
want to talk to the dames and other people at the, who need storage and stuff.
We have a house and a manager's house.
We're not gonna put storage in the manager's house.
And the category.
And the carriage house, too, go ahead.
I just to get a little perspective, what is the percentage reduction being requested by planning commission? Has anybody figured that out?
No, I can figure it out right now.
Well, okay. Mr. Christensen, okay.
Well,
This
this
is
is
third.
quick. By the way, these prints are drawings, were not presented to the planning commission.
They were not?
I don't recall.
We brought these to the planning commission meeting.
Well,
And they're also
there's no point arguing about it, this past, but basically, the whole size of the structure could be, if we get down to 100 by 2 feet, that's 200 feet of bench. They have 5 rows, and I don't know the exact.
Right, it's currently 300 linear feet of bench, 100.
Yeah, and basically what
50%
we're saying is,
reduction.
let's reduce the bench to 200 feet. If you want to make it, well, okay. Well, it'd be 200 feet of bench. You could reduce it by rows from 5 to 4 or 5 to 3,
Sure.
and get a total of that. It's
To answer
We
your
have a
question-
member of the public
Just to
who'd
answer
like
your
to-
question.
Yes.
If you go from 36 to 24 inches, you reduce the length by 1/3.
That's just what he said, so, okay.
I just have a question on, we're spending a lot of time talking about seating. This is the only sport that requires spectator seating. Soccer doesn't require permanent seating. Lacrosse doesn't require permanent seating. Why don't we deal with the more salient portions of it rather than where people are gonna sit to watch a game? Everyone else can sit on a lawn chair, but baseball has to have a beautiful stadium building, our jewel that you called a jewel of Holbrook Common Park.
Because it's protection, right?
For the spectators?
I
Soccer,
think
soccer,
that's-
lacrosse, can we
Mayor,
get
more
permanent seating
importantly-
too?
More importantly, that is in the ballot proposal, while land use is not. So there are many things that aren't in the ballot proposal that were put in other places intentionally to cover everything so that the voters would have the information. And if they don't look, it's a horse in water. But those issues are in there. And it does say, in the only place it talks about land use, by the way, is in the city attorney's impartial analysis says it will go back to the planning commission for review.
For land use.
That's correct. And we came up with the other things that we say were looked at by the voters. We came up with them from the 2 ballot proposals, the rebuttals, and the impartial analysis. And I realize that that's not what's in the hard language of the ballot proposal, but neither does it say, Jim, that there's any land use review in that proposal either. And if you wanted to stick just with hard use, you could never have an initiative, because that's why the legislature allows those other things to go forward, so the voters will be informed before they vote.
But the voters are informed. But to be informed and to agree is 2 different things. They can be informed, but they may not agree with it. So
They
what I'm
certainly could have
saying-
agreed with parts of it and not all of it. I
The only
agree.
hard stuff are the 4 lines on the ballot measure.
Well, as the guy who wrote those 4 lines, I can tell you what was intended was what's in the impartial analysis that I also wrote.
Well,
Yeah, okay.
So-
So, all right, so I think we've discussed
Well, I wrote
this
it.
at quite a length, and
That's your opinion.
I'm not sure that, and we're not gonna take a vote on this, but does,
Well, I mean, the
yes.
obvious compromise might be 100 people, 30 inches per person,
No.
in terms of a calculation, but that's the middle ground between.
No.
horse
Well,
trading.
I mean, that's if we're negotiating
Correct.
and horse trading, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure that I think that's not where we are. Let's move on to get another common ground that I think that we may have is in the covered dugouts, because I do believe that we do have a majority of council here that does believe that the dugouts as proposed is consistent with the ballot measure, and you really do need to have covered dugouts because, you know, taking off the roof every time and exposure to rain and more maintenance, and it just doesn't make sense to me, so, I don't know. You've already expressed your
Yeah, their
feeling.
comment, I think, was at the end of the season, take the roof off. To me, it doesn't make sense.
No.
It's a small thing, you're gonna
Yeah.
have the covered seating, and, you know,
Yeah.
it's gotta withstand a ball falling on it, so it's not gonna be something light, so I think that's a bridge too far, and
I think we've agreed on that one, Elizabeth.
You have,
We've agreed.
Good,
that-
okay.
We like what the planning commission recommended, but in the spirit of compromise, we'll say, okay.
that's very nice.
Well, I said, I
And you-
thought the council,
yeah.
the commission was a little bit off base on that.
Okay.
I would say a compromise.
Yeah, well, it just sounds better.
No problem.
Okay, so then item number 3, okay, the application is to construct new fences to extend from the backstop to the foul poles. Fences will be painted black or vinyl-coated chain link fence with a height of approximately 4 feet. Now, do we have a picture of that illustration that you can show the public?
It's not
No, picture of the
accurate
fence.
definition of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And the planning recommendation was to allow a non-movable fence similar to the footprint as it exists today along the infield. Anything beyond that shall be removable at the end of the season or upon request of the town. That's a little vague to me, but why would the town request that? But then staff's comments are that the permanent fencing extending from the backstop to permanent foul pole is consistent with the ballot measure. The Little League feedback is that the foul pole fencing is consistent with Measure M, feel that it should be included to avoid any issues with the voters. The Little League is proposing a blended fence of black acrylic coated chain link fence, which will be far more visually transparent. Complexities of removing the foul line fencing are many and present the town with far too many challenges. I wonder what they are. Also, if the fencing were to be removed annually, there would be larger storage requirement in the seating structure to accommodate the fence sections. So our job is to discuss and figure out permanent fencing extending, and whether or not it's something that is stipulated in the ballot measure that we will be in contrast with our voters. So,
Comments?
yes,
Comments?
yes,
Sure.
yes.
Okay, so, is there this picture out there?
Yes, we have that.
Yeah, can I come out here for that?
I've got it.
Okay, you got it there, okay, good.
This one.
So, y'all have this one here, so I'll hold it up here.
Oh, that doesn't look
That doesn't look good.
okay. Just do
Turn
it
off.
without the, you know.
Temporarily
just-
turn off the projector.
Well, anyway, I can repeat what, you know, my thoughts on it is that, first off, for those people who actually go to the park, you know, there's this little path here, if you're walking along the path, this is the path that the kids ride their bikes on when they go through the gate to go to Encinal School. You know, there's a nice big oak tree here, and there's actually a couple benches here where people actually regularly sit out here. And, you know, this fence here, hey, there needs to be a fence. There's no question in my mind, you need to have a fence, and it makes sense that it would be permanent. That would run all the way through, not just the backstop, in front of the dugout to protect the kids, the on-deck batter's box, as well as the, you know, the whole bullpen area, you know? But then after that, it would be great if this could be taken down, because if you're sitting in this bench here, for example, you're looking through a fence when you're looking out to the park. And that's, you know, it's gonna be about 4, 5, 6 feet away from you, looking right through a fence, a black fence. That doesn't add to the rustic nature. It doesn't seem that this could not be taken down. So also, it precludes other people who use the field after these are taken down from using this part really, because it does extend and extends this way. So the kids do use these fields here. And so, you know, it precludes full use of it but I don't see, need for taking it down past the, before the bullpen area. And it would be nice if Little League would at least consider that. I think that would be a very nice compromise that, from the bullpen area, the end of the bullpen area out, that they would take down that fence so that the rest of the full park could actually really be used. And, especially in this area here. So, okay, so.
So it would be similar to the outfield fence?
Yeah, they're removable from the end of the bullpen area
Oh,
on.
no.
So I'm coming a little bit
Like the,
earlier.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this would come down so that young people that are using, sitting here on this, aren't looking at a fence 3 feet away.
Yep.
And so I think
But
that.
why are you pushing it all the way back?
Well, I think the question is, how much do you really want to take? And it's more expensive to put the divots in the ground and,
Yeah.
we're spending their money. I mean,
Right.
if the rest of the council said, take all the fences down, I'm not gonna argue with that, but I'm trying to be somewhat reasonable. I thought it was a reasonable request to Little
But
League
then-
at least to consider.
Right. City manager.
Quick question on your, to clarify, where it starts to bend is where you'd say it'd be
No,
permanent?
right here, the end. The bullpen area is here.
Yeah.
Right
The
here.
white part.
Right here at the end.
So how hard to
Take it
say,
off.
And then what happens to the foul poles?
We're not on that.
I know, but if you,
The foul poles are
They
something
go
that's in the
together?
ground.
That's the next one.
The
I
foul
mean, don't
poles
they
are
kind of go
something.
together?
They're separate structural items.
Yeah, they're separate.
I think that they said that in one of the write-ups, they could make the foul poles removable, but they would be several feet higher. And of course, it would take some extra effort to take them down. They're gonna be heavier. I mean, if they could take all that down, if everything could come down, or at least more that comes down, the more usable the park is, and it improves the, it keeps the aesthetic quality for when the season isn't in play, which is,
So I'd like to hear from
That's
the
fine.
Little League as to why that's not a good idea.
Let's, starting with the fence,
Yeah.
beyond the bullpen. In theory, we don't have a problem with that. The fact that it's, if it was to be removable, theoretically, that's fine. It's a practical problem relative to storage. If we were to concede that particular point, we would continue to insist absolutely that we have all the storage that we've planned for in the structure. The foul pole issue is different because the fencing is a bit of a gray area on the ballot, that foul line fencing. The foul poles, if you look at Mr. Connor's impartial analysis, it says permanent foul poles. And that is what the voters approved. So I don't think we have wiggle room on that one.
The voters never approved that. The
Sure they
voters
did.
approved the language of the 4 lines. They never said anything in the 4 lines about permanent foul poles. Nothing.
Okay.
I think we're trying
Carrie?
to all come to
Yeah.
agreement.
Yeah, I would say, I'm interested obviously in public safety and people that are visiting the game. If there's concession related to bringing back, I would agree, you gotta put that stuff somewhere. I would even say even 3/4 of the way, because prior to this bench area, somewhere in there, a little bit farther out, maybe 25% on that side, 25% on that side, giving them flexibility. But I think that that's something that we can work out, because there's a lot of fencing that's gonna be removed. And I would hate to get to a point where there's a problem with removing fencing and stuff. So, I don't wanna go there creating another problem down in the future. If we have solid fencing to a 3/4 degree, then, I got public safety for 3/4 of the.
Can I?
Okay, I just want to say, I think Councilmember Widmer makes a good point because of the tree, because of the bench that's existing there. And this would only be at the end of the season. This isn't like after every game, right?
Right, it's the end of the season.
At the end of the season. And where I disagree would be the extent of it, you know, all the way back to the dugout
No,
point.
There's a bullpen.
The end of the bullpen is here. See, there's a bullpen area. This is the bullpen, it's shaded.
I don't see it shaded.
It is shaded. It's a little bit, it's a different color than the other pictures. Pictures rubber here and you got a home plate here, so this is shaded, it's a different color.
Okay, so if I count 1, 2, 3 poles, 3
Yeah, it's gonna be
axes.
60 feet roughly from here, or 65 feet from the edge of the,
What's about
Bill,
half?
Bill, is it
halfway.
easier to see down the first base side?
And
yeah,
replicate that on the
yeah.
opposite.
This is the, so there's the pitcher's mound,
Got
that
it.
warms up, and there's the home plate that he throws to, and getting ready to go to the game.
In that zone. So we're pretty, I'm.
Yeah, so it would be cut off, here, you see they have
Yeah.
that set, so.
Got it.
These guys need protection because they're playing, and when the foul ball comes over, it kind of hit them in the head, and it's inappropriate.
I don't know.
I get the feeling that the Little League has agreed
Yeah,
to this, so maybe we can put this to
would
bed.
that,
That
Why?
if they have
would that be a
permanent-
compromise?
Permanent fencing to the
Yeah.
bullpen.
Yeah, I think it would make, it would just open up the field at the end of the deal. But then we have to deal with the foul poles, right?
Right.
Because you've got those at the very end of the green, right, at the very end of the arc.
Okay,
Okay, so,
foul balls.
city manager, did you get that direction?
I did, that the fence will be removable from the bullpens on either side going out.
Right.
Removed at the end of the season, just like the outfield fence.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, and with regards to, I know that we're not on the construction, or the, you know, who should maintain the field and things like that, but whether it's the city or whether it's, you know, after the season's over, the city's doing it. You know, I think that the city could take up the fences, we could have that in the MCE contract, they would take up the fences, we could store the stuff if there wasn't enough. I mean, fencing does take up space, I don't know if it will all, even as it is, will fit in the back area where they've got it, so we could store it in the, you know, we've got that big metal shed, which hopefully we'll get rid
Oh, gosh, no.
of. Okay, but we could store it in other places, yes.
Isn't there storage underneath the bleachers?
Yes, that's what,
We're talking
we discussed,
about.
maybe we could reduce
Yeah.
that space, yes.
Put the fencing under the bleachers?
Either there or in our corporate yard, or
I'm not
someplace.
sure under
where-
the bleachers.
underneath because we want to
It's-
keep the visual impact low.
Right, yeah.
There's nothing
I mean, there's plenty of